How can we help clients overcome a fear of abandonment when that fear has been wired into their nervous system?
So, from my perspective, abandonment is a literally a primal fear embedded in humans, and it creates a has a very strong physiological component.
That's Dr. Stephen Porges, and as you might know, he's the creator of the polyvagal theory. And the way that he breaks down this issue shows why it can be so difficult to work with. At its core, abandonment can be a major threat to a regulated nervous system. But why is that? Well, for one thing, it's because it strikes at the heart of one of the biggest human concerns.
Abandonment is, of course, your iconic issue of lack of safety, of it's the core fear that many people have. But really, what it's about is a lack of safety and a lack of opportunity to functionally co-regulate with another. So if we think about the greatest fears that people have, they are isolation. So even in the penal system, putting people in solitary confinement, and the fears that people have of not being able to communicate, like being in a locked in syndrome, which means they're alive but they can't move a muscle. These are also the same things of not connecting or communicating, and the fear of being abandoned, left alone. So abandonment is part of this core feature that is innately embedded in us as a great fear, because our quest is always for safety, and safety is really through our capacity and ability to co-regulate with others, to be in contact with others. So abandonment is just has this high valence and triggers all kinds of complex fear reactions.
The chain of connection is very clear here. If we're isolated, we can't communicate. And if we can't communicate, we can't co-regulate. If we can't co-regulate, then we can't feel safe. So it's no wonder that the mere hint of being abandoned can trigger the nervous system into a threat response. But here's the thing. The level of that response can greatly depend on how much experience the client has had with being left out.
So in the clinical world of working with abandonment, we have to understand the potency of it, its valence, it's powerful. So if a child is abandoned at an early age or at any point in time, and the child has this, at time of abandonment, the capacity to co-regulate primarily with parents, the parents are now gone. The ability to move beyond that becomes very difficult. So abandonment and loss of capacity or opportunity to co-regulate is really it's devastating, because it makes, in a sense, the metaphor is it defines the individual as no longer have access to the capacity or the processes of becoming safe.
Early life abandonment can take a heavy toll on someone's nervous system. And as Deb Dana reminds us, the reason why it can be so damaging is because of the deep tracing that it leaves behind.
Being in connection, being safely connected to another person is a biological imperative for we humans. We need to be safely connected to another to survive. And our nervous systems are longing to be in connection with another nervous system. And when that need isn't met early in childhood, there's a fear that is held in the nervous system of being alone. And so when there's an offer of connection, many clients feel that offer and either respond too intensely or disregard the offer. And either one of those responses creates confusion on the other end. So for a client whose nervous system feels an offer and moves into a sympathetic, what we might call neediness, but a sympathetic mobilized action to connect, helping that client understand what are the cues your nervous system is sending to that other nervous system is a great starting point.
Now, this is a crucial part of the equation. As we mentioned a short while ago, Abandonment disrupts the nervous system's search for safety, and this can leave it highly sensitive to threat. So, breaking down the autonomic nervous system, a nervous system that's in sympathetic danger can often be sending out cues of danger to another nervous system. And that's where the painful cycle of abandonment and rejection can start to perpetuate itself.
So even though the longing is for connection, the energy that's sent from one nervous system to another is one that pushes the other away. And clients, once they begin to be able to understand what's the message my nervous system is sending, then can look on the other end of the interaction and make sense of what's happening there. It's not that that person maybe doesn't want to be around me. It's that my nervous system has sent their nervous system a cue that says, I'm not safe to be around. So once that happens, we can begin to play with how do we come into ventral vagal and how do we offer some ventral vagal cues of invitation. So it's ventral vagal that offers an invitation to connection, and it's sympathetic and dorsal that says protection. And once a system is moved into protection, it's hard to want to be around that system. So for clients to begin to understand that begins to change the story that they create about themselves. It's no longer, no one wants to be around me. It's that my nervous system is dysregulated. And as I learn to regulate it, people are going to want to be in connection with me.
That one simple bit of information can be a real game changer for some clients. By looking at how their nervous system might be sabotaging their relationships, they can maybe start to focus on better ways to self-regulate. And then that brings up the obvious question: how do we help clients recondition their nervous system so that they can connect better with others?
So one way to help clients really begin to track how much energy they're putting out and whether it is sympathetic, dorsal, or ventral is by what I call the Goldilocks guide. And when we're in a sympathetic state, too much is going out and it's pushing others away. When we're in dorsal vagal, there's not enough being transmitted and people don't have a sense of who we are and if we even want connection. So it's from ventral vagal that just right energy of connection is being transmitted out into the world, inviting any other nervous system that's around us to come and be in connection. It's this autonomic welcome that's broadcast. And that's what we want our clients to learn how to embody and then how to send out into the world. And for clients whose systems were tuned around danger, around fear of abandonment, that is a slow process to help them embody.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is a way to help the client shift away from two extremes of energy. If their energy is too hot, it can act like a repellent to others. But if it's too cold, it can make them seem uninterested and self-protective. What we want is a kind of vibe that feels just right. That's the Goldilocks connection, if you remember that part of the story where Goldilocks was testing the bowls of porridge. Now that we've established what the goal is, how do we help them get there? As I know you know, changes to the autonomic nervous system can happen by doing small things over and over again. So what we may want to do is to help the client find a small practice that they can do repeatedly.
One of the small practices is to capture a moment of reciprocity in the therapy session, a moment when my nervous system and the client's nervous system have joined and are sharing back and forth, and to stop there and savor it for a moment. Again, we tend to move right by those moments, and it's important for our nervous system to take a pause, stop there, explicitly name it, and then savor it for about 30 seconds, really wire it in. And if we wire it in by bringing in the sensations and the image and the thoughts and the feelings, we have a good chance of having that come alive again. And so the way we bring it alive again is in what I call remembered reciprocity. So clients will take this moment and then they will take it out into the world between sessions. And when they're in a place of needing a moment of connection, they're going to bring that remembered reciprocity up and see if their nervous system can come back into that state that we shared.
That can be an effective way to help clients readjust the state of their nervous system when these old patterns arise. And it again shows the importance of a strong therapeutic relationship, because it's the safety and the connection in that room that can have the greatest impact on healing their nervous system.
The ability to work with people who have features of abandonment are really have to start with the ability to create little, I'll use the term, islands or windows of co-regulation. The therapist may be the individual that creates that opportunity. Um, so the part of working with it is that abandonment leads to a lack of trust. But the fact that the person is in a therapeutic setting means that they are reaching out to get over that abandonment. And so the therapeutic setting based upon trust can give the client, potentially give the client some opportunities to exercise co-regulation and move out of that. The therapeutic relationship becomes functionally a neural exercise that enables the individual to have experiences of co-regulation, which will hopefully then be generalized.
What the client is learning in session is how to reestablish safety through healthy co-regulation. Something to keep in mind is that this is often a very foreign experience for some clients. Also, establishing that safety can take time, as we'll hear now with one of Deb's clients. Even the therapeutic relationship can be vulnerable to rupture.
I have a client, a very dear client, whose early experience was of growing up without a regulated or regulating other adult presence in her life. She grew up expecting to be abandoned, to be mistreated, and to not have anyone predictably, continuously show up for her. So as we started working together, we really began to notice the moments when I would have to change a session or the time would change, and how incredibly dysregulating that was to her nervous system, because the unpredictability just brought that flood of early experience alive in her nervous system. So as we mapped her system and got to know it, we created a process through which, if there was something that changed in our appointment time or our meeting time, that we could converse through the language of the nervous system, and I could send a reassurance to her nervous system to remind her that I'm still here, that I just need to change a little bit. And we were getting pretty good at that. And then I had a big disruption in my life. My husband had a stroke, and that totally disrupted my clinical practice. And it was interesting because of the groundwork we had done, we could hang in there together. And she was able to show up for me with some compassion, and I was able to let her know that I still held her in my thoughts and in my heart, and that as things got back to some semblance of normal, that we'd come back into connection. And we've done that. And then we have smiled at all the minor moments of ruptures that have been happening since, and understanding that those ruptures are normal parts of relationship. And that, I think, is where we've gotten to now, understanding that rupture is a normal part of relationship, that it's not dangerous, that it can be repaired, and that it really can strengthen that sense of connection. And her system is starting to feel out into the world, into other relationships, and rather than discounting a person the first time they don't return a text, to be able to bring some curiosity to, I wonder what's happening over there, and stay in it. So it's, again, this lovely sort of reshaping of a nervous system that, because we had done the work in the beginning, could withstand a major disruption and come back into regulation. So a really sweet experience for both of us.
What a powerful illustration of the efficacy of the connected nervous systems. That neurobiological connection can be so vital for your client's healing. But for Deb, what ended up really helping her client was being able to map out how her nervous system was operating. She could see how the past was affecting her sense of safety and how she got triggered into a response. When we can combine that knowledge with a strong therapeutic relationship, we can help clients shift the way that they react to moments of connection and disruption. And with that reshaping of experience, they can become better equipped to engage in healthy co-regulation. Now, in the next module, we're going to look at how to help clients manage the painful feelings of abandonment so that they can stay regulated. I'll see you there.